Hey guys, David here from Googity55 Tech Tutorials, and today I'm going to be showing you how to master a song. Okay, so let's get started. So first off, I'm going to start off by saying that I am by no means a professional. Basically what I'm going to be showing you is ways that I have picked up to do this. This is more if you want to do this at home yourself, and this should get your track to sound as close as possible to a professional mastering at home. Now first off, I am going to say that you do need to start off with a good mix, because if you don't have a good mix, mastering will not fix it. Also, the industry standard for today's mastering is to make things as loud as possible. I'm not sure if this is really a good thing, but if you want your song sounding like professionally recorded songs, this is what you're going to have to do, and that's what I'm going to be showing you how to do. Okay, so I'm going to be using one of my own songs here, and I'm just going to go ahead and play a little bit. Now this here is the unmastered version, and I'm going to play the mastered version in a second. But first the unmastered version. Okay, that was the unmastered version, and here's what it sounds like after it's been mastered. And you can also see that the peaks are pretty high here.
So we walk the underground trail at night to the place where we used to stay.
Okay, so those were the two versions, so let's get started on the unmastered version. Now the DAW that I'm working in is Reaper because it is free. However, the steps should be the same in almost every DAW that has similar plugins to what I'm going to be using. Now I'm actually going to be using all free plugins in order to do this. Now like I said, there are several ways to do this. This is just the way that I found to work the best for me. These are merely guidelines. You can change things around. Don't just follow what I say, follow what your ears say. If something doesn't sound right when you do it, don't do it then. Or make adjustments as needed. Okay, so the first thing that I like to apply to the track when I'm going to be mastering is I actually like to use a spectrum analyzer. So I'm going to be using this one here called Blue Cat Audio, BC Freak Analysis 2. And this is an awesome spectrum analyzer. So I'm just going to play part of the song and we're going to see what it looks like right now.
So we walk the underground trail at night.
Okay, and you can see the peaks here at each frequency. Now ideally we like to have these all close to leveled off as possible. So the first thing that I'm actually going to apply is an EQ. Now I'm going to be using, here in Reaper they have Re-EQ, but any EQ should work for this. And the first thing that I'm going to be doing is, if we look here, we have a bit too much bass and not enough treble here. Now I'm not going to enhance the treble right now because we're going to be using an exciter in a minute, which will enhance it. But I am just going to take down the bass just a little bit. So I'm just taking down the low end at around 200 Hertz. By about 2 dB. And the bandwidth here is 2 in re-EQ. Now another thing that I like to do is at around 650 Hertz, so that's your low mids pretty much, I also like to cut some of this out because it just, in my opinion, makes the final track sound a bit better, sound a bit cleaner. It doesn't sound as muddy. So I'm just going to take this out by about 2 dB again, and I'm going to move the bandwidth up a bit to about 3 here. Okay, let's take a listen.
So we walk the underground trail at night.
Okay, so you're able to see that the low range was brought down a bit there. So next, like I said, I'm going to just add an exciter. And this will just help bring up the treble just a bit. The frequency is at 2000 Hertz, and the mix back level is at -6. I just tend to leave it on the defaults, but just in case you're using a different exciter plugin, those are what my settings are at. Let's take a listen again.
So we walk the underground trail at night.
Let's see, effects off
So we walk
and on.
the underground trail at night.
So you can hear that it is starting to sound a lot more clean, and we are starting to get quite a bit more treble. The next thing that I tend to add is a multiband compressor. So the one that I'm going to be using here is one that comes with Reaper once again. It's called ReXComp. And I leave all the frequencies at the default settings, but just in case you're using a different plugin, I'm going to read them out. Okay, now since I've already actually gone ahead and mastered this track, I know what it's going to sound like after I apply this. But you might want to play it back while you're doing this so that you could get a feel of what it sounds like. Okay, so what I'm going to do for this is I'm actually going to play the track.
So we walk
And the first band is at a top frequency of 200 Hertz. I'm just going to bring the threshold down until I feel it's being compressed a good amount. That's good. The next band's top frequency is at 1000 Hertz. Once again, just do the same thing. The third band's top frequency is at 5000 Hertz. Again, the same thing.
this place aglow.
And the last band's top frequency is at 24,000 Hertz. So once again, I'm just going to do the same thing. Okay, so let's take a look at the spectrum analyzer.
So we walk the underground trail at night.
And that looks good. Now the next thing that I like to add is a stereo imager. Now this is a free plugin, it's called Up Stereo, and I find that this is probably the best free stereo imager that you're going to find out there. This will just widen up the sound a bit. Now by default, it seems like this actually comes with a limiter, which I'm going to turn off by just hitting this loud button here. And I'm going to change this EQ on the side down to 0%, because we've already done all the EQing that we've wanted to do so far. Now if we listen to it right now, we're going to hear that it is actually way too wide. So by default, it's set to 75%.
So we walk
And that doesn't sound good. So for me, I normally keep it between 52 and 57%, depending on the song. So I'm just going to listen.
So we walk the underground trail at night to the
And right there sounds good for me. Okay, now here's the point where you can actually add reverb if you want. If you feel like things are kind of dry in your mix or you want to bring things together a bit more, you can actually add some reverb. I myself tend to add a lot of reverb while I'm mixing, so I'm not going to do that. But if you want to do that, go ahead. Just be cautious because too much reverb will make things sound muddy, kind of defeating the purpose of adding it. So the very last thing that we are going to add, and this should always be the very last thing no matter what, is a brick wall limiter. This is what's going to give us that really loud sound. So I'm going to be using a plugin called Loudness. It's a very, very simple limiter, but it does its job very well. It's free, you can download it online. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn down the threshold until I see it being limited quite a bit over here. This is the industry standard. Like I said in the beginning, I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing. It does tend to do some pretty bad things to the audio. But if you want your master sounding like the industry standard, you're going to have to do this. So I'm just going to play the track and I'm going to bring down the threshold until I feel it is being limited enough and that it sounds loud. Now you're going to want to do this in the loudest part of your song, most likely. So I'm just going to go ahead and play it.
So we walk the underground trail at night to the place where we used to stay. Remember to keep it a secret. We will keep this place aglow.
So those are pretty much all the effects that I use to master a song. You could tweak them to your liking. Don't just follow what I did. Listen to the song on good quality studio monitors so that you can hear things that you wouldn't normally hear on just headphones. And tweak things until it sounds good. Don't just copy what I did because these settings might not work for every single song. These are just guidelines. So once you're done, you can actually go ahead and just save the song in Reaper. That's called render. Just gonna name it tutorial. And I'm going to save it at a bit depth of 24-bit. Sample rate 44,100. Now you don't want to be playing around with sample rates here. So if your whole track was actually recorded at a sample rate of, let's say, 96,000, then in that case you're going to want to output it at 96,000 hertz. Now, under this master mix section, I'm also going to click dither. When I'm done, render file. And we can see here that in the loud parts of our song, it is actually really loud because of that limiter.
In a place like this, it's hard to stay awake. You are not alone. Even though you feel broken. In a place like this, it's hard to stay awake. You are not alone. Even though you feel broken.
So thanks for watching and I hope I helped. If you like this video, don't forget to click the like button down below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more, and check out my Facebook and Twitter page. Also don't forget to check out my website at www.guguda55techtutorials.com. All the links are in the description below.